So, two very different publications are talking about man keeping, and I'm here for it, and I want to talk about both of them. Evie is more of an anti feminist type of publication. So, their title is Man Keeping is the latest feminist buzzword and it's undermining real femininity. And then the New York Times says, weary of emotional labor of man keeping. So they're talking about this is emotional labor. So we're about to jump into this and talk about both of these articles. First, for Evie, feminist scholars have officially coined a new term, man keeping, casting women's emotional support for men as an oppressive burden. This isn't just another attack on men, it's also a direct attack on femininity itself. Let's talk about it. From mansplaining to manspreading to toxic masculinity, recent years have seen a surge of terms vilifying men and masculinity while perpetuating female victimhood. The latest, man keeping, introduced by Stanford postdoctoral fellow Angelica Puzio Ferrara, is the most insidious yet. It frames the emotional labor women invest in supporting their partners through daily struggles, mental health challenges, or encouraging social connections as an unfair drain on women. Ferrera argues this demands urgent attention as women shouldn't be forced into the roles of their partner's therapists. The narrative grotesquely twists the male loneliness and mental health crisis into a story of women's suffering. It's not just an attack on men, it undermines the nurturing, empathetic qualities traditionally associated with femininity, recasting them as oppressive obligations. Although not as popular as other terms, man keeping has now gained traction with Catherine Pearson's New York Times article, Why Are Women Weary of the Emotional Labor of Man Keeping? This piece, from one of the world's most influential publications, risks mainstreaming the term, further entrenching the narrative of female victimhood and male vilification. The New York Times should prioritize addressing the urgent crises facing men, rising male self deletion rates, deteriorating men's mental health, and widespread male loneliness. These critical issues demand our compassion and immediate action rather than diverting focus to their impact on women. We must dedicate our energy and resources to tackling these challenges head on with the support of women. The male loneliness crisis. The male loneliness epidemic has become a pressing issue in recent years, driven by the erosion of traditional male spaces. Studies highlight the severity of this crisis. A 2021 survey by the American Enterprise Institute found that 15% of men report having no close friends, compared to just 3% in 1990. A 2023 YouGov poll revealed that 20% of men feel lonely most or all of the time, with young men aged 18 to 29 reporting the highest rates. These statistics underscore the urgent need to address male loneliness by fostering environments where men can build meaningful connections. The decline of male-only spaces, such as social clubs, groups, and gatherings, have left many men without the community support they once relied on. This loss has not only limited opportunities for friendship, but also contributed to a broader societal misunderstanding of the value of male spaces and societal support for men. While female only groups and spaces are often celebrated as empowering, male groups and spaces are frequently viewed with skepticism. Democrat women, according to recent surveys, believe the most that female only groups benefit society, while they also are the group that believe the least that male only groups benefit society. I want to say I believe that men need their own spaces and men need to build these spaces and men need to do the whole self correction as far as the male loneliness epidemic. Men, go out and get your spaces. I'm a Democrat. I voted Dem. Go get your spaces. This double standard is striking. The same group that championed female spaces as beneficial often dismissed male spaces as unnecessary or even harmful, ignoring their role in combating loneliness and helping mental health, which they are now complaining about as being a burden on women. The hypocrisy and lack of awareness is striking. Once again, I will just say I am not a hypocrite. I say, men, go ahead. Have your spaces, have your groups. Go ahead. Yay, let's go. Let's go, men. To truly address the male loneliness epidemic, we need to start valuing male only groups and spaces as vital for fostering connection, camaraderie, and emotional support among men. This means challenging the growing cultural suspicion towards masculinity and rejecting the idea that male spaces are inherently harmful. Women, too, must be willing to set aside victim centric narratives and recognize that supporting men's well being is a necessary part of building a healthy society for everyone. This is not a marginal issue. It's a crisis with life or death consequences. Men are 4 times more likely to die by self deletion, a heartbreaking statistic that demands compassion and proactive solutions, not blame or dismissiveness. And yet, in this environment, we're seeing feminist narrative reframe the emotional support women offer men as an unfair burden. That's just not unhelpful, it's dangerous. We should be encouraging women to lean into their empathy and offer greater care and connection to the boys and men in their lives because it might genuinely save lives. Men and boys need more resources, support, and understanding from our culture. But instead of directing compassion their way, outlets like the New York Times continue to suggest that women are the ones in need of more support. That narrative must shift because if we keep ignoring one side of the story, we're only deepening the crisis. Men's mental health. America is grappling with the mental health crisis, and our current system is not adequately equipped to meet the needs of men. To improve mental health outcomes for men, we must acknowledge that the system, as it stands, is often oriented towards women's experiences and needs. For instance, research indicates that 44% of men who begin therapy discontinue it. Another word for discontinue it is quit. They quit, suggesting a disconnect between the services offered and men's unique needs. The most common answer to why men quit therapy is that they couldn't connect to their therapist and setting. Blaming men and their masculinity for these challenges is counterproductive and overlooks a critical issue. The mental health system may not be structured to effectively engage men. Rather than victim blaming, we should explore innovative, male led, and male centered approaches to mental health care. Men and women experience and process mental health challenges differently, and treatment options should reflect these differences. One key area for improvement is increasing the representation of male therapists. Over the past 50 years, the proportion of male psychologists has declined significantly, with only about 20% of therapists today being men. Men often express a preference for working with male therapists who may better understand their perspectives. Yet, the field lacks male representation. To address this, we must invest in initiatives that encourage men to pursue careers in mental health professions, just as we have promoted diversity in other fields. Now, I am going to stop there. We see what Evie is saying. Let's encourage the men. Let's tell them to get out there. Let's stop quitting therapy. Let's encourage men to go into professions where they are therapists and helping people. That is what they are saying. Women need to, be more empathetic. You let me know how you feel about what Evie said. And now I'm about to do the New York Times one. Let's see how they differ. Okay, let's look at the New York Times article. Weary of the emotional labor of man-keeping, as male social circles shrink, female partners say they have to meet more social and emotional needs. Justin Lyoy is a licensed clinical social worker in Brooklyn who specializes in therapy for men. When he sees a new client, one of the first things he asks is, "Who can you talk to about what's going on in your life?" Much of the time, Mr. Lyoy says his straight male clients tell him that they rarely open up to anyone but their girlfriends or wives. Their partners have become their unofficial therapists, he said, doing all the emotional labor. That particular role now has a name: man-keeping. The term, coined by Angelica Puzio Ferreira, a postdoctoral fellow at Stanford University, has taken off online. It describes the work women do to meet the social and emotional needs of the men in their lives, from supporting their partners through daily challenges and inner turmoil to encouraging them to meet up with their friends. What I have been seeing in my research is how women have been asked or expected to take on more work to be a central, if not the central, piece of a man's social support system, Dr. Ferreira said. taking care to note that the dynamic isn't experienced by all couples. The concept has taken on a bit of a life of its own, with some articles going so far as to claim man keeping has ruined dating and driven women to celibacy. We talked to Dr. Ferreira and other experts about what man keeping is and isn't, and how to tell if it has seeped into your relationship. Man keeping isn't just emotional intimacy. Dr. Ferreira, who researches male friendship at Stanford Clemens Institute for Gender Research, and Dylan Vergara, a research assistant, published a paper on man keeping in 2024 after investigating why some men struggle to form close bonds, a growing and well documented issue. In a 2021 survey, 15% of men said they didn't have any close friends, up from 3% in 1990. In 1990, nearly half of young men said they would reach out to friends when facing a personal issue. 3 decades later, just over 20% said the same. Dr. Ferreira found that women tended to have all of these nodes of support they were going to for their problems, whereas men were more likely to just be going to just them. She sees man keeping as an important extension of the concept of kin keeping, the work of keeping families together that researchers have found tends to fall disproportionately on women. Eve Tilly Colson, 37, was relieved to stumble upon the concept of man keeping on social media. Miss Tilly Colson, who lives in Los Angeles, is happy in her relationship with her boyfriend of nearly 7 months and described him as emotionally mature, funny, and caring. They make a good team, but Miss Tilly Colson finds herself offering him a fair amount of social and emotional scaffolding, she said. They're both busy attorneys, but she tends to take charge of their social plans. Miss Tilly Colson has hung out with her boyfriend's close friends a handful of times. He hangs out with hers several times a week. Her role as the de facto social director of the relationship includes more serious concerns too. When are we going to meet each other's parents? When are we going on our first vacation together? She said. And if all of that onus is on me to kind of plan, then I also feel all of the responsibility if something goes wrong. Man keeping put a word to her feelings of imbalance. I feel responsible for bringing light to the relationship, she said. Her partner, Glenn, 37, who agreed to speak to the New York Times but asked to use his first name only, said his gut reaction when his girlfriend first described man keeping to him was that it seemed consistent with what he'd seen play out in many heterosexual relationships. He wondered, okay, but is that bad? We're in a moment where women are speaking up about how drained they are by this dynamic, said Justin Pierre, who runs a therapy practice in Seattle that focuses on relationships and men's issues. Miss Tilly Colson, who is also a content creator, even made a post on TikTok about it. Male social disconnection is a larger problem. Rather than viewing man keeping as an internet approved bit of therapy speak used to dump on straight men, experts said they see it as a term that can help sound the alarm about the need for men to invest emotionally in friendships. The reality is, no one person can meet all of another's emotional needs, said Tracy Dalglish, a psychologist and couples therapist based in Ottawa. Men need those outlets as well. Men need social connection. Men need to be vulnerable with other men. Mr. Pierre said finding additional resources for emotional support does not require going from 0 to 60, adding that deepening friendships can happen in these smaller steps that are more manageable. He might encourage a client to share something new about himself with a friend he already has, for instance, or invite a friend he normally sees in only one context to do something new, a friendship building concept sometimes referred to as repotting. If his male clients are reluctant to put themselves out there in that way, he tells them that developing relationships is not about replacing their romantic relationship, but strengthening it by widening the emotional foundation underneath your life by investing in friendships. But some of the challenges men face in making strong connections are societal, said Richard Reeves, president of the American Institute for Boys and Men, a think tank and author of Boys and Men. Many of the institutions and spaces where men used to organically make friends have eroded, he said, like houses of worship, civic groups, and even the simple workplace. Men used to be able to put themselves in these institutional settings, and it kind of happened around them, he added. That's not happening so much anymore. Men have to do more, be more assertive. I'm finding that even in my own life. For Miss Tilly Colson and Glenn, talking about man keeping explicitly has helped ease her burden. Glenn admitted that partly he thought that his girlfriend just liked taking the reins socially, but when she explained how it felt to act as the default emotional manager in the relationship, he began to see how things could feel lopsided. I had not read these articles until I read them just now. I read Evie's first just because I know that I'm a feminist and I know that they are anti feminist. And the way they kind of demonized the New York Times, I thought that it was really going to be, oh, woe is me, talking about what the women are going through. But what they're talking about in this is not particularly bad, is not just saying punish men and pull away and stop talking to them, is not saying that. The men do need to take some accountability in building their relationships and making spaces for other men and boys. They have to be the front runners. The way Evie was making it sound like women need to take the reins, but they're saying over here at the New York Times article that men need to take the reins, and they really do. Women have enough going on, and we do tend to do a lot, and we already are typically the caretakers of the children, the adult family members, and have other things going on. We cannot be the social managers and emotional managers of men as well. They're going to have to take some leadership roles in the lives for themselves and other men. Join the conversation though. Let me know what you think about all of this. How did these articles both land for you as I read through them? Let me know, like, comment, and share.